All right, we're working on some harder things in Algebra 1. We're going to get down to it. We're talking about two different types of graphing. When you hear the word linear, do you think of a line? And what we don't know is this new word called a quadratic. We've seen a lot of x squares, but now we're dealing with this quadratic. And an x squared graph is going to give us the graph of a parabola. Our essential question today is, can you graph linear and quadratic functions? The first thing we know is we have to use a table. So we talked about this earlier in the year. Anytime you doubt, go ahead and use a table. So I know that I could find the y when plugging in the x's. So if I plug in 0 squared minus 6 times 0 plus 4, I know that 0, 4 is a point. Well, I'm going to keep going from there. 1 squared minus 6 times 1 plus 4. 1 minus 6 is negative 5, plus 4 is negative 1. And when I plug in 2 squared minus 6 times 2 plus 4, that's going to give me a negative 4. And I'm going to keep going on by plugging in 3 and then 4. And I guess I could go to 5. And when I do that, 3, 4, 5, you might start seeing a pattern here. I know that everything is going up a little bit, but it's a little different with a quadratic. So you might not see that pattern yet, but when I plug in 3, I get negative 5. And when I plug in 4, I get negative 4. And when I plug in 5, I get negative 1. And 6 was 4, but I didn't write that down. So our goal is to graph it without a calculator. So 0, 4 is going to put me here. And then I have 1, negative 1, which is here. Well, that's weird. And then I have 2, negative 4, which is here. And then I have 3, negative 5. And it's very, very helpful to know the pattern of a quadratic. So we are for sure going to talk about this. We're going to observe a ton. And at 6, I go back up to 4. So this is what a quadratic looks like. It should look like the shape of a U. So there's a lot of things we have to learn about this shape of a U. The first thing, and I'm going to dive right in, you might have to watch this a few times. This is ax squared plus bx plus c, where in this case a is 1, b is negative 6, and c is 4. This dot right here at 3, I believe it was 3 and negative 5, this is called the vertex. And to find the vertex, I need to use the opposite of, well, the x is equal to, the opposite of b over 2a, which means if my a is 1, my b is negative 6, and my c is 4, I'm going to take the opposite of b. Instead of a negative 6, I'm going to take a positive 6, and I'm going to put that over 2 times 1. Well, I know 6 over 2 is equal to 3. So on our chart, we already found that 3 matched with negative 5. So this is a great place to start, right here at our vertex. So notice that it is symmetrical. So if I was to draw a line straight down the center and fold this in half, it would be identical. Now we're going to talk about that pattern, and you're going to learn that pattern. That pattern's over 1 up 1, over 1 up 3, over 1 up 5. Do you notice that all of these ups are 1, 3, 5? So you probably are seeing a pattern there, which is no coincidence because remember all of our x squares, which your mean math teacher made you memorize. 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16, 5 squared is 25. Notice all of these go up by odd numbers, 3, 5, 7, 9. Did you know that? Very good observations. So as you can see, I'm taking some time here to observe patterns. So from this vertex at 3, -5, I'm going to go over 1, up 1. And then, so we just did this. And then I'm going to go over 1, up 3. Over 1, up 3. So we just did that. And then I'm going to go over 1, up 5. Now you might not understand that right away, but we're going to be working on this pattern with parabolas because every parabola has this pattern. Sometimes they put numbers in for the A where that number will be stretched or shrunk. But this is a great video on finding the vertex and graphing a parabola and knowing patterns. So we're going to start there and we're going to take our time learning all these parabolas.